Hey guys, I just want to welcome you guys. I have with me here Hazyk and Shariq, two freshmen from the University of Texas here in Austin, and they were so nice to come in and visit me today. We actually spoke maybe a couple of weeks ago, and you guys reached out to me just coldly, right? Which I really appreciate. Which, by the way, is proof that if you reach out to me, you can get in the room with me, right? So. Yeah, we talked a couple of weeks ago. You guys just wanted to talk about some basic finance stuff. You saw what I was doing with the halal real estate investing, stuff like that. You were questioning about it. How does it work? Kind of proof that it's also not really talked about all that much, and it was kind of a new idea. Here we are today. They came in, they drove all the way down from Austin to sit here and meet with us, and just looking to talk more and answer more questions. So from that conversation that we had, you were initially asking me about how does Sharia-compliant investing work, right? Because you both are business finance majors, and what you're currently learning is what? The
traditional debt usage, like all that.
Yeah.
And you yourself kind of see the good, the bad, the ugly. How do you see yourself wanting to go in your career going forward?
Well, I guess moving on, like my kind of ultimate goal is I want to start, inshallah, my own like Sharia-compliant investment management firm.
Yeah.
So like, kind of use people's money and then obviously invest it for them, but make sure that every single industry that we go into, or I guess the investments that we're putting forward are Sharia compliant.
Yeah.
What I want to do right now is recruit for consulting, strategy consulting. So spend a couple of years there, and then after that, kind of use my reputation and the skills I learned from there, and the networking connections I have to eventually start my own firm, like I was saying, and make sure that everything's Sharia compliant, so no debt, no interest, and then make sure that everyone's happy with what I'm doing.
It's interesting to hear this from like young guys like yourself, who, for me as somebody who's kind of had a couple of years under my belt. I've done the corporate job. I've gone through the banking. I've done a lot of my real estate investments using the traditional methods. So through my experience, I can tell you what I liked, what I didn't like, what was good, what I wouldn't do again, stuff like that. Young guys like you who don't take this as a knock, haven't done it in the real world yet, you are interested in doing it. No loans, no debt. Why? Like, what is it about that idea that appeals to you?
I think one thing about debt is that like it can be used to I guess kind of prey on people in a sense, right? I'll relate this kind of back to Islam and then also from a moral standard. Islamically, like back then during the Prophet's time, they would make people like people would take out loans from certain people, right? Then they would charge them a really high interest, and that person wouldn't be able to pay them back. And then they would just literally enslave them, like, oh, you can't pay me, you're my slave now.
Yeah.
So, and nowadays it's still the same for a lot of people, right? Like they take out loans, they can't pay them, whether that's student loans, business loans, any other type of financing, and they're not able to pay them back. And then they end up, being kind of like prey for these like bigger firms, bigger mortgage firms, right? And in my opinion, I feel like that's something that's can really be avoidable, and we can find a way to kind of like not use debt within any of our lines of business or lines of service. And I feel like that's something that's really important to me. And then also Islamically, it's wrong, and I feel like God has more knowledge.
Yeah.
So because He's the most knowledgeable, He tells us not to do something, and there's a better reason behind it. So I should try my best to not go about it and kind of be successful in a space that a lot of traditional investors are successful, and then put Muslims on top. Yeah. And then also in general, like, I want to benefit the community, regardless of whether that's Muslim. I want to be, socially optimal, kind of help these people who aren't able to help themselves and are being preyed on by these like large loans.
No, that's awesome, man. I think that's everything 100% correct. Do you think what you're saying now, like, I'm interested to see the mindset of your generation. Like, is ethical, social governance, like that's important to you guys, right? Like it's not all about the money. It's more about doing things right. Where I feel like my generation was very much like, do whatever you can, get it done, right? Like make the most amount of money. the world's changed. Obviously, social media has made the world a lot smaller. There's a lot more information out there. So I think it's really refreshing to hear young guys like you have this thought process, right? Like you definitely, I can tell, want to do things the right way for the right reasons, and it's not just you guys. Like you're in prime college, UT, Texas, Austin. You see the student body. Are you guys having these types of conversations, get-togethers? What is the overall kind of mindset?
I think it differs like person to person, but generally when I'm speaking to Muslims there, they tend to have the same kind of ideas.
Yeah.
Even though they're going to be working in like careers which aren't necessarily Sharia compliant, like private equity or investment banking, their main goal is to like use that knowledge that they have from there and kind of transform it into something that is Sharia compliant, kind of understand how the industry works and find their own ways to
Yeah.
kind of adapt and be Sharia compliant.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I'm curious, how much of this comes from your parents versus you guys just discovering it on your own or looking, doing your own research, your own analysis? It's not like, are your parents like breathing down your neck, hey, be Islamic, be Muslim, do things the right way, or is this just come from within?
You want to answer first?
Sure. For me, it definitely comes from like within.
Yeah.
Let's say nobody like forces you, or in my family, to like pursue something to that like extent. Because at the end of the day, it's like my choice. So I feel like just with social media, having access to all of these like different platforms where you can learn about your religion and just the difference between right and wrong,
Yeah.
then it definitely comes from within.
Oh, perfect.
And for me, I would say like somewhat of the same, right? My parents like are a big part of like why I adhere to Islamic ideals and kind of keep my morals and principles in check. But I would also say like, it's something that I personally want to do and personally I want to pursue because like I said before, I really want to show that Muslims like even if you compare yourself to non-traditional like investment banks or private equity firms or like any of these consulting firms, you can also be really successful while pursuing Muslim ideals and then you can just be successful while pursuing Muslim ideals. I feel like that's something that's really important to myself, and I want to be the reason the other Muslims are like, okay, I can get into this field, I can do this thing, but I can also do it while making sure that I keep my principles and morals in check. So that's like
Yeah.
definitely one of my biggest reasons.
I mean, definitely. I think when I sat down and was putting together our model for our King's Private Equity Group,
Mhm.
it was, I don't know, it's like the light bulb went off that I was like, hey man, if we, when I did the modeling out of debt driven real estate projects versus, hey, if we did it all equity, all cash, the returns were either the same or just a slight bit below or slight bit even higher, right? And I looked at it and I was like, well, the returns are the same, but the risk profile is so much different, right? So to your point about like, we sit here and we talk about Sharia compliant, halal investing, the Muslim way. If you think about it, it actually works for like everybody, you know? And that's kind of what I'm really, really excited for here at KPEG is I want to show and prove that what we're doing just makes sense from a numbers basis, from a investment basis, whatever you want to call it, whether you're black, brown, yellow, Muslim, Christian, Jew, doesn't matter, right? We're doing it the right way, the ethical way, sustainable way, and it's very, very straightforward and clean cut. And I think the world today has just gotten too convoluted, right? Like we were just talking about it earlier. You've had conversations not just with me, but with other VC companies or equity funds, and you're talking about like capital stacks and different class shares of investors, A, B, whatever it is. It gets so confusing, right? Like waterfall distributions, preferred tranches, XYZ. It kind of, if I was an investor, I'd be confused myself, right? Like, what am I getting into? How does it work? with us, I always say that if I can't explain my deal to you in 5 minutes or less, something's not right. You know
Wait,
what
so I
I'm
have a
saying?
follow-up question.
Yeah.
At a very high level, could you explain, like, just by strictly using equity and cash, how are your returns kind of matching with debt used returns?
Yeah. So if we do a debt-driven deal, let's say we typically, and I'm talking about in the real estate space, if I go and I get a construction loan or even land financing, in the current state today, it is about 10% interest rate to the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add on top of that 2 to 3% in origination points, loan fees, interest payments, all that stuff. So typically, if in a debt-driven deal, consider yourself paying out 13% to a lender, right? Now, typically, that lender, you're going to put a 30% down payment and they're going to give you 70% equity, right? So they're a 70% partner in your deal, but they've got a guaranteed 13%. They're going to make their money no matter what, right? They're also going to put a lien on your land. So if your project goes upside down or if you're not selling it outright, they get the first right of redemption. Any money that sales that go in, any money that comes out, they get the first dibs. If you put 70% into the deal and I put 30% into the deal, are we really partners if you have no risk, your money's guaranteed, and you get paid first? Hey, I'm sitting at the back of the bus, after we exit the deal, after you get paid back, hopefully, fingers crossed, there's enough left over for me to make my money and my profit, right? So that's just an example of the debt driven thing, right? Now, typically, as an operator, the way most people see it is, hey, I'm happy to give that 13, 14% to the bank because they're solving my problem of I need 70% of cash capital, right? That saves me from having to go out and raise more money, get more investors. I only have to, in my mind, I only need 30%. If I get 30%, the other 70 is solved, right? What we're trying to do on the 100% equity way is number one, it's more work for us. We have to go and raise 100% of the cash, right? So that's interfacing with more investors, more groups, more one-on-one conversations like this, right? So it's a little bit more legwork, but the way that we structure ourselves is everybody comes in, and this is the way we do it. Everybody comes in one share class, pro rata partnership, meaning if you are a $50,000 investor or a $500,000 investor, there is no specialty given to one over the other. There's no, hey, you get paid first, you get paid second. There's no preferred equity guaranteed, right? We're all in this together. When we do that deal, all cash, number one, we're saving that 2 to 3% of origination loan fees, right? We're not paying some other third party to underwrite our deal, do paperwork, or anything like that. And then we're not paying that 10% interest. It stays in here. It's not a debt on the group. We operate, we build what we got to build, we rent out what we have to rent out, we do the deal the way we do it. And when we sell it, all proceeds, 100% of the profits get divided up amongst everybody equally and fairly based upon what you invested. That's the short way of saying that 13% that we paid the bank, we would pay ourselves, right? So if not more, right? That 30% savings now gets paid out to our group here. Plus, we're also not, like I was mentioning, there's nobody in front of us, right? There's no lien on the property. If you're an investor in this project and it's an all equity deal, you are guaranteed to get paid out as per exit of the deal. And we're also, as you know, like if you take on a debt, if you take on a loan, you've got payments to make, right? No matter what. First of every month, the bills due,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if we're in an environment like we are now where, hey, the market's down everywhere, financial markets, real estate market, job market, everything's down. It's a little bit harder to sell and exit properties right now. That doesn't mean the bank doesn't get paid every month, right? So if you get hit into a period or a market turn like this, um, those payments that you continue to make eat away at your profit margin, right? We don't want that. With our group, if we find ourselves in an environment like we are now, we are not pressured to sell before we're ready, or we're not pressured to sell at a lower price than what we are actually valued and worth, because we don't have those payments to make. We don't have that debt to pay back, right? So with real estate, my belief is the value will always be there. It's just a matter of time, right? If you sell in a bad market, you'll get, let's say, as an example, 50% of your cost of your value. If you wait until the market's really, really hot, you could get 150% of your value, right? That swing is super, super important. And it all comes down to timing, which you, him, none of us can control that, right? Doing it kind of the Sharia way or the 100% equity way is we are our own bank. We rely within ourselves. We're not succumbing to outside pressure or institutions, stuff like that. We make decisions based upon our logic, our profits, our in and out. Everything has to make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that definitely
Yeah,
answers my
that
question.
makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
You guys are looking at consulting careers, right?
Yeah.
Are there specific areas that you want to be consulting in?
Well, me personally, I want to do strategy consulting, but like
Yeah.
if I want to delve deeper into industries, either real estate or anything along the lines of like investment finance. Like those are the two I
Yeah.
really want to major in, but obviously like, I don't mind like working in other industries because that's the best way to pick up kind of, that knowledge. So like either
Yeah.
way, it's fine for me.
What
Yeah,
about you?
for me, I mainly want to do private equity or investment banking, but mainly on the tech and software side.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys feel like because we didn't have social media that much when I was coming up
Mm-hmm.
through college and all that. Do you feel like a pressure, like everybody's making money, like we got to make money and we got to make it fast and
Not
know.
about making it fast, but definitely pressure us to like we have to do something. Like
yeah,
I think for me it's like low key like a mix. I mean, it's like 75 like 25 for me. I do want to make money kind of fast, but at the same time I've kind of more realized, especially with like Shariq stuff too. Like he's kind of helping with this. Like like you should be more sustainable. Build something that will actually work out in the long term. Don't just go for like random side hustles like
drop shipping,
drop shipping, like social media marketing,
TikTok
agency.
shop. Like a lot of people our age.
you're saying don't do that.
Don't
I
do
would, I would
that.
definitely
Okay.
say
I
don't
mean,
do
it's
that.
not.
You can definitely learn it, but I just feel like if you are investing yourself in it, just don't expect to make a return like
Yeah,
really
exactly.
fast. A lot of kids they go into things. We have a very short
Attention span.
span. And we want dopamine really fast,
You just want
but
money fast.
a lot of kids they just want to invest in things and kind of try to make money fast, and it doesn't work out. They try for like 2-3 weeks. They're like, oh yeah, this isn't working. I'm just gonna move on to the
Right.
next thing. But I feel like it's much better if you hone in like on one thing. Like let's say for you real estate, or for me like software, for him consulting. You hone in on that and build up your skills there. It's much more beneficial in the long run.
Yeah.
Your generation is like the creator generation, right? I know that you guys are just into college. Out of curiosity, what would you say to like high schoolers who are like, I don't want to go to college. I can just go online. I can make my money doing different things like
E-commerce and all.
e-commerce, whatever. Like, and it's there. People are doing it, right? Like, I'm not here to knock that you definitely can be successful today without quote unquote traditional
Mhm.
education. What do you guys
I
say
feel
about
like
that?
my biggest piece of advice to high schoolers is that like a lot of these kids, like what Shariq was saying, they think they can just get money really fast and really like quick, and that it's like kind of easier, right? But the thing about college is that it gives you like a platform of resources and people that are more knowledgeable than you that you can reach out to and kind of gain knowledge from them, and you learn more than what you will learn by sitting at home just trying to do stuff, right? You get exposed to so many different opportunities. Like for example, at UT we have this thing called the Real Estate Center. We've done a competition with it. We placed pretty well in it. Then there's also like different finance resources that they have. They have a lot of different clubs that kind of literally teach IB curriculum. So the thing is, like UT offers you this like plethora of resources and these people that know more than you, right? And
Yeah.
that's the best thing about a college is that you learn from people who are smarter than you, right? Like the same reason we kind of reached out to you
Yeah.
is because we knew that we could learn more from you because obviously you're more invested in the space that we want to learn from, which is kind of the same thing that college provides you. And I feel like that's my biggest piece to high schoolers, like make sure that you're trying to learn from people who are more knowledgeable than you and go to college because college offers you that platform and that backup um, to kind of get you more knowledgeable in whatever space you want to learn. And you might not even know the space like you want to get into
Yeah.
before entering college. But when you go through it, you go through so many different types of people. You talk to so many, you know, like professionals, and you learn from this, and then you're able to kind of grow and become a better person, and also become a more professional person in whatever space you want to get into. So I feel
Yeah.
like that's what high schoolers should do. They should definitely go to college.
Network is a big thing,
Network,
Mhm.
yeah.
right?
I
And
would
you're
say like I kind of have a different viewpoint than him. I obviously know that college matters. I completely agree with him on the aspect of like you have all of these resources, but I have a lot of people in my family that didn't go to college,
sure.
very successful, and you just see it all the time. But I feel like you need to have a plan. Like you need to know what you want to get into. If you want to get into real estate, you can understand, okay, the barriers to entry are definitely lower in real estate because you need capital. If you have capital, you can get started pretty early on. But let's say you want to get into real estate, but you don't have capital. Then you can work at like a big development firm, and then you need college for that. So
Yeah.
I definitely feel like you have to be realistic with what you want to do in the future, and then kind of make your decision based off of that. I don't think there's a correct decision, but you have to be very logical, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
I want to ask you guys, in our culture, South Asian culture, when I was definitely growing up, our parents pushed the tried and true professions like doctor, lawyer, engineer. Your generation, what do you see? What do you guys? What do you see a lot of pre-med people? And if they are they doing it for the right reasons, or are they doing it just for the money? Or do you see a lot of people doing more kind of uh, business, social, uh, you know,
Creative.
poli sci, whatever it is?
I
Hmm.
feel like when it comes to that, like, the professions that are pushed down to South Asian culture, it very varies from like person to person, right? Like you kind of have to ask them. Like obviously the majority of people are definitely like, pre-med and then engineering. So like what you were saying, yeah, that's true. But it varies from person to person because you kind of have to ask them like their intentions, like why are they doing it? So a lot of the people are doing it like, for the money or for the parents. And I feel like if you're going in with that reason, there won't be any passion behind what you're pursuing. I
Yeah,
feel like passion is an important part, right? Because you want to like care for what you want to care for what you're doing. You want to care for the people especially your healthcare you're caring about, right? And at least for these people that are pursuing it, it really does vary from person to person. But I feel like now, like a lot of people are kind of venturing into more creative kind of avenues. Like for example, you're doing real estate private equity. That's
yeah,
pretty niche, I would say. And we're trying to do our own things too, like related to investment management. So I would say like that's definitely not the traditional route that like our parents wanted us to do, but because I feel like for these South Asian cultures, a lot of people care about the parents care about reputation, right? Like,
yeah,
oh, like my son's a lawyer, my son's a doctor, my son is like this, that. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's cool, but like focus on what you want. You know what I mean? If you
yeah,
don't want to pursue this, if you're pursuing only for your parents, that's not right, right? Do what you want for yourself. If you know that it can make a lot of money, like if
yeah,
you know that it can make money for yourself, and also you can, you're doing what you love. Like Sharik was saying, it's really important to make sure that you're being realistic in the sense
yeah,
that you will make a good amount of money to where you'll be able to live with your expenses and anything else, but at the same time you're pursuing what you love. So be realistic and also follow your passion. That's like my two biggest pieces, I would say. From that.
yeah,
I would say, looking at my social like circle, everybody I ask like what they want to do, like doctors, engineers, whatever, they want to do it. Like they
Okay.
seriously want to do it. Like definitely their parents did push it down, but I feel like when you're applying to college, you kind of have to make that decision. Like, do I want to do it because my parents want me to do it, or do I want to do
Right.
it because I want to do it? And a lot of them, they really want to do it because they want to do it. So I feel like there's been a shift between like the last couple of generations and today's generation where people are starting to work on things that they truly want to work on.
Yeah.
I would
Well, definitely. I mean, I think you guys touch on a couple of really good points, which is you can make money anywhere.
Mhm.
Like money's everywhere,
Yeah.
right? So whatever you do, and like I say this like my when I was growing up, we were like, oh no, we don't want to be doctors. Like it's so much school,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like the idea of becoming a doctor, it just seemed hard, right? Now sitting where I am today at 37 years old, everything's hard, right? Like choose your hard, right? If you think going into consulting and starting a business is easy, think again, right? You'll spend 8 to 10 years trying to build that up and get to that level. So I agree with you. I think it's pick what you want to do with passion and commit to it. Definitely like when you're your age, I think from age 20 to 30, you're just fully focused on learning, building yourself, building your resume, getting your experience. The money's going to come either which way, right? Whether it's through a job or whether it's through freelancing or business, anything like that. At the end of the day, just pick what you want to do. Hope, be smart about it, right? Have a plan, and inshallah everything will work out. And one thing that I think is really important that I wish people had kind of told me more about was two words: sales and marketing, right? Like I wish I had spent so much more time learning those two things because those things get applied to everything, right? Whether it's healthcare, whether it's legal, whether it's finance, business, at the end of the day, we're always selling, we're always marketing, right? Do you feel that that is kind of being brought more to the forefront with you guys, or no?
I would say not really.
Not
I don't
really.
think people
Wow.
fully like realize the
Okay.
importance of it. Like let's take like Tesla for example. Like
Hmm.
of course it's a great car company, but who's the face of Tesla? It's Elon Musk. And a lot of people they buy his cars because they're fans of him, you know? Like the Cybertruck, it may not look the best, but like the face of the car
It's the
company.
personal branding.
Yeah, it is kind of like a personal branding and that kind of goes with so many things and I don't feel like people fully kind of realize the importance of it today. What do you think?
I feel like people realize the importance of it more when they get into the space, right? Like, for example, if you're talking about like, realizing it at a young age, like they don't really realize it, right? Because
Mm.
like, they're still like focused on schoolwork, focusing on like getting their job done or whatever they have. But they don't like, when you start a business, you kind of realize like, yeah, I have a whole plan outlined. I have everything ready, but like, where are my clients? Where are the people? Like, what's the market that I target? Where do I like push my product
Right.
out? Right. And that's where like sales and marketing comes into and how you can best sell your voice, you can persuade people. So I
Yeah.
feel like it is something very important, but I feel like a lot of people don't realize it until they go out into the real world, until they work on, things themselves, like autonomously.
Yeah.
So that's when people realize it. I feel like it is something important, but I feel like they realize it kind of later in life.
And kind of to add on, I feel like one thing that kind of hinders that is college because
Mm.
when you're taking the traditional route, you're always being told what to do, right? You're told like do X, Y, Z, work over here. Let's say you work at an investment bank, right? As an analyst, you're gonna be working on like these like deals and different things like that. But the managing directors and the people higher up, they're the ones that are pitching themselves to these kind of businesses for these to secure these like M&A transactions. So you don't realize it until later just because in college you're just told like you're doing X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
It's true, exactly.
It's not
Good point.
always. I know what you're saying because I went through it myself.
Mhm.
Where I remember I was working a job. I was an assistant to an executive, and now that I look, now hindsight is always 2020. I was like, oh man, like I was pretty much I was helping run this executive's like $20 million book of business with all the clients he represented and all that. As a 22-year-old kid, that didn't make sense to me, right? I didn't grasp the importance of it or the magnitude of it. But at the same time, it's not like he ever sat me down and mentored me or coached me in that way, right? It was just we were kind of expected to pick it up as you go, right? You touched on upon it a little bit where, let's say you are not choosing your career or your pathway necessarily based upon money, right? At the end of the day, we all know money is important. We live in a materialistic world. We got to provide for our families and stuff like that. Do you guys have in your head like a dollar amount or a money that would be like that's my goal. That's what I want.
I feel like having far-fetched dreams is really important because
Mhm.
say you're not able, say like you want to make $10 million, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna push yourself to do anything you can to get to $10 million. But even if you put your like 100% in and you get to $1 million, that's
Did
you
you
know
really
one
fail?
1 million, huh?
Did you really fail?
Exactly. You really fail. Exactly. Like you're putting so much work into it. You're achieving something higher than what you think is realistic. But with the same token, because you're trying to do that, you're going even harder. Like you're working even harder and faster, and you're able to
Yeah.
get to a mark that's much better than like the average person or like whatever you need. And I feel like having really like really I guess crazy goals is something that's really important because you are pushing yourself harder than you would be. Say you're just like, okay, I'll make 100K and like that should be chill.
Yeah.
I feel like that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I completely agree with him.
Yeah.
Like, if you
Aim
can't
big.
think it, then how are you gonna do it?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's different for everybody. I have
Yeah.
some friends that I speak to, and I'm like, okay, like, what do you want to do? They're like, oh, I'm just fine with like having a job and just working 9 to 5, which is completely fine. But the main important thing is like you have to kind of go back to being realistic, have a plan. Like, okay, this is what I want to do, and this is how I'm gonna do it. So
Yeah.
it just comes down to that.
And I feel like it also depends on your motivations as well, right? Like if you do want to be able to, give back to the community and I guess a monetary value, you are gonna have to, have a lot of money or extra money to kind of
Yeah.
not burn through, but be able to give back. So, kind of aiming for that larger goal, I feel like is very important, depending on your motivations. So, like he was
Yeah. We always talk about financial literacy for the younger generation. You guys being right there, you're on the cusp of coming out of being youngsters. Where did you learn financial literacy? You didn't get it in school, so where did you pick it up, or you're still figuring it out still, but you guys come across as very mature, responsible, level-headed guys. Where did that come from?
I would
Like,
say for me, like, obviously you don't learn it in school. Sure, you can take a class. I think there's a class I'm going to take next semester about it to learn more, but mainly online is a good option. Definitely for my family as well. My mom's very responsible with her money. She's a very good spender. She knows exactly how much to spend. Like, she'll take out cash just so she knows, like, okay, I'm spending this much. Definitely comes from that as well.
like, did your parents sit you down and, hey, let's talk about
No.
checkbooks and
I
No,
credit
have,
no,
I
cards?
have
no.
friends that have actually like had
Yeah.
parents that do that. I'm like, bro, like,
That's actually really
like
good.
that's hella good. Like, I want to do that for
So
my
you would
kids, right?
you would appreciate that, or you would
I would
you
appreciate
you would
that.
like
If
Yeah.
my parents sat me down, you're like, like, here's how you do your taxes. Here's like, how you set up a Roth IRA, like all these different things, right? But
Mhm.
were you like done? I don't want to.
Yeah, that 100%. Like, what you're saying is correct. Like, if parents would sit down and do that, that would be great. Yeah.
And I feel like at least for me, it's a mix of like family, like he was saying, and then also kind of like personal motivation, right? Like I know that if I want to be successful later, obviously I have to start from an early age, right? Like, I would see these reels like people start their life really like at 25 or like a little later. Like that's when they really start like, okay, I need to lock in now. But you have 7 years of advantage, right? You're 18, you just started
Yeah.
high school. If you like open up a Roth area right now, if you try to reach out to the right people, like get the right connections going, you're gonna be so much better off than doing that 7 years later, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like for me, that's like personal motivation is a really big thing, and then also kind of like my family, like watching my dad do his own finances, and then also he has his own like successful businesses. So kind of seeing that has really brought me to want to be better with like at least financial literacy wise.
What would you have liked, like a high school class or a high school course? Maybe if it wasn't part of the school, like an extracurricular or after school thing. Like, do you think
Um,
people would do that? Because I think
Are you talking about like in terms of financial literacy?
Yeah, financial, like, what you talked about. How do I manage my budget? How do I think about my paychecks? What are taxes?
Mhm.
What are basic things that once you're 18, you go into the world,
I
you have
actually
no
took
idea
a
about it,
class
right?
on this. It was called Securities and Investments, and we had a little unit on personal
In high
finance
school?
in high school. Yeah,
Oh, what the hell?
Like in
Well, that's
in
tough.
part of your school
yeah,
or
part of
what?
my
Oh
school,
wow.
and
For a
the
while.
teacher had gone through it. Like she was an accountant for a while, graduated from Texas A&M, started her own real estate business. So she had a lot of practical experience. So she was kind of teaching us different things like, okay, you guys are going to be going to college soon. So let's make a list of all the things you guys are going to need to purchase from college, how you're going to maintain your expenses, where you're getting that money from. And she had a very practical sense, like a really
Yeah.
applicable sense. So I think more and more classes should kind of implement
That was
that
an
where
elective or that was like
elective. It
okay.
was an elective. It was a business elective.
Was it full?
What do you mean?
The
What
class.
was it?
No, class wasn't full.
Oh
I
my
don't think
God.
people like,
People didn't know.
yeah, people didn't know. Yeah. But I know a lot of kids didn't take it too seriously, but looking back on it, it kind of introduces you to at least think about these things.
Right.
Yeah, this really.
Are you guys working currently during the year or full time?
We're both interning at this one
Yeah,
startup.
startup.
It's called Resia AI.
Nice.
What they're doing is streamlining the whole home renovation process. So you can take a picture of your kitchen, post it on the platform, a contractor can bid on it. And the best thing is the contractor doesn't even need to go to the homeowner's house because the homeowner can literally design it using AI, get a cost estimate, and let's say they want like a certain type of countertops, they can order it through the supplier like on the platform. So it's just like an all-in-one platform for home remodeling.
Oh, awesome. How did you
Yeah.
guys find that? Is it another
Well,
UT student or?
Yeah, it's a UT senior.
That's what I was
started.
gonna say about UT again. They have this startup incubator called Texas Momentum. He actually joined this last semester. I just joined this semester. I was doing something else last semester, and they provide basically students with like internships by bringing in founders that are at UT like he was saying the senior, and that's kind of where we found the internship. We saw Rezia
Nice.
there. He applied. He was able to get in. I applied again next semester, and now I'm working for them as well.
So what, do you have to go there? You have to physically go in?
I mean,
And,
no, there's no
It's-
office or anything. It's
Okay.
like
Yeah.
very small scale. Like they haven't even gotten their pre-seed funding yet. So
Oh,
it's
okay,
like
okay,
that
gotcha.
small of a thing. The founding engineer, he's a partner engineer at Meta, and the more business sales marketing guy, like his sales skills are like honestly
Yeah,
amazing.
he's
Wow.
amazing.
He's
Okay.
actually amazing. I've picked up a
If
lot
you
of
had
things
him,
from him. Yeah.
We game over?
Yeah,
Yeah,
game
game
over,
over, I tell
seriously.
you.
Like he can think very well on the spot. But the thing is, like, he's not even a business major. He's an
Mhm.
architecture major.
Yeah.
But his soft skills are very good. Which goes back to my point about like college. Like, just because you pick a major doesn't mean you're like restricted to that.
Yeah,
A piece of
exactly.
paper doesn't necessarily define you. Just because he's studying finance doesn't mean he can't do something in like technology or
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, the way I look at the world is it's all people, it's all relationships,
Mhm.
right? So, like, if you're an architect, but you're just really good at people, you're going to get so much more business than
Yeah.
Yeah.
the guy who's a probably A plus plus architect, but you're like sitting in the corner, nobody
Yeah.
knows you, right?
Yeah.
You need both sides, like, in my opinion. Yeah.
Exactly. So what do you're in this internship now? Do you stay there or every summer or every semester you switch or how does that?
It depends on what you want to do. So I thought Resia was super interesting in solving like a very big problem.
Yeah.
And the market for it is very big. So I decided to stick with it. And yeah.
At least summer wise, I don't think we're gonna like work on it in summer. I mean, if he has random tasks, like we could do it, but I don't
Yeah.
think we're gonna. That's something we're gonna focus on in summer. But what's it called? Like during the school year, like obviously, we help with it. And the thing about like working with a startup is that it's so like early on that you learn so much more than
Yeah.
working with like a huge like institutional, I guess, company, right?
You realize exactly how hard it is. Like you have an
Yeah,
idea and you think it's so viable until you talk to a contractor and then he tells you like, no,
No.
this isn't the way it works. This is how
Right.
it works. This is what we want.
We've actually done a lot of sales, like a lot of sales calls with contractors. Trying to persuade them about the service, like literally just to book a demo, just to like show them what the service provides, like what it does, and then they just say no, we have our own in-house thing, or they're like, oh no, we don't need it right now, or like
Because the
it's
idea
like-
is
or
just
they
so
just hang
like
up, like
It's really hard to these like old school trades.
Mhm.
It's really hard to adapt these new ways of doing things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Number one, I think there's maybe a little bit of a fear of, oh, you're taking my job away. Like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
we're contractors. We know what we need to do. And the other thing is, it's just like kind of going back to, I'm a professional. This is what I do. I don't want to have to learn a whole new tech thing. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, obviously we're in real estate, so we work with contractors all the time. Um, I've been impressed and shocked that like there are some contractors who can just come in, walk a space, and like just like either memorize the floor plan,
Yeah.
or be able to, oh, okay, I know that wall is 96 inches. I'm like, don't you want to measure it? He's like, no, I know. I'm like, dang, dude. I'm like, because like they have been doing this for so long, so many years. So, you kind of got to trust and respect the old heads a little bit. No,
As
and
possible.
you mentioned you're interested in doing Sharia compliant financial management down the road, right?
Yeah.
What is your thought or understanding of, like, other than real estate, Sharia compliant investing in stocks, private equity,
Yeah.
VCs? How do you look at it? How do you,
Mhm.
hey, I want to invest in Sharia compliant stocks. How do I do that?
My ultimate goal is obviously, like you were saying, like to provide all like asset classes, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's like VC, private equity, or fixed income, or like equities. But the way I'm planning on doing it is obviously like I kind of finish my like career first, like go into whatever consulting or whatever finance I do, and then kind of get an Islamic finance certificate, because obviously I have to know like the insides myself, and then also try to bring on an advisor. But if I can't, then like I'll figure that out. And then I'll make sure I find like a screening platform for these equities, and find, like you were saying with Zoya Capital, kind of find a way to integrate that into my services,
Right.
and then make sure that my clients' money is being in places that they would want them to be like Sharia compliant. So first I would focus on that equities, and then like going out into venture capital, private equity, I would make sure that the industries that we are investing in, or whatever projects or businesses they're trying to acquire or buy, are Sharia compliant.
Yeah.
So kind of, and obviously I would have to learn more on the go, right? Because that's like a space that's very more niche, and you have to kind of learn more about it. Um, I would do that, and then I would make sure that the other asset classes, whatever else I provide, and how I'm taking the money, and like if I need to like say put contracts like before, like this is where we're investing it. That way, like people know that also adheres to Islamic principles. So I would just like kind of put that all together, and
Yeah.
make my own services off of it.
When you do that, let me know, because I will support you 100%.
Yeah.
As you know, when I was an advisor at Merrill, I remember sitting in my cubicle trying for the life of me. I was like, "Hey man, I'm at the biggest bank in the world pretty much. If I can't do halal Sharia compliant stock screening here, I can't, like, where else am I going to do it, right?" But I can tell you it was a challenge. It was not readily available. It wasn't something that I also wasn't getting a lot of support or interest from the higher ups to do this. So it was kind of like a project that I was left on my own to do it in my off time, right? Because I was busy during the day doing my normal tasks. So it just kind of lingered and never went anywhere, and it got left there, right? Once I left the company, I never picked it back up again. Sharia compliant investing in stocks and equities, it's not new, it's been there, but it takes a lot of time, a lot of
Yeah.
effort, the right people to make it happen. So hopefully you can. Um, for me, the idea of Sharia compliant real estate, it's just simple, right? Like it's very, very black and white. There's no back and forth about it. No loans, no debt, no interest, everything 100% equity. And of course, as long as we're dealing in industries or building products that are not promoting unlawful things, it's good to go, right? So I found that path for me to be a lot easier. Um, but hopefully you guys, the next generation, can take it the next step.
Inshallah, yeah. Hope
All
to-
right, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming in. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. And again, if you guys have any questions, any follow up from me or Hazyk or Shariq, please reach out, leave a comment, and also just reach out to me if you want to have a conversation like this. You want to learn more. Happy to do it and get to know you guys more. Thanks.